y'all. Welcome to Economics with Aria, where we discuss how changes in macroeconomic policy affect Orange County. Today we're discussing affordable housing in Chapel Hill. The government of Orange County defines affordable housing as when households spend less than 30% of their income on their rent, mortgage, and utilities. Its development is crucial to the local economy, but is impacted by a variety of factors. In this episode, we're focusing on how changes in interest rates impact the construction of affordable housing. Interest rates are a form of monetary policy, or policy set by the Federal Reserve. When interest rates go down, the construction of affordable housing can go up. When they go up, construction can go down. We'll speak with Professor Roberto Quercia to analyze interest rates and the economic impact of affordable housing, and Mayor of Chapel Hill, Jessica Anderson, to see how the town is addressing its shortage of affordable housing. First, we're going to hear directly from college student Sunny Duncan, who makes a lower income and struggles to consistently find affordable housing in Chapel Hill. In discussing economics, we sometimes forget that people are the economy. Interest rates affect the construction of affordable housing that affects the people living in those housing units. According to the North Carolina Department of Commerce, renters in Orange County are among those who pay the most for rent in North Carolina. Sunny's story reminds us that people struggle in Chapel Hill's housing economy. Sunny, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Has it been hard to find affordable housing in Chapel Hill?
For context, I should just say that I'm a college student, so I've been here for about 5 years now. Initially, when I was trying to move here first from my parents' house and then moving here, I did have some difficulty finding housing. And when I first moved here, I couldn't get into a dorm because this was around COVID, and I just hadn't applied for a dorm, and so I was searching for an apartment in the Chapel Hill Carborough area. The timing was just a little bit off for me, and I was trying to find housing very short notice. I remember at some point even checking Craigslist for housing because I just didn't know where to find places. Again, as the perspective of a college student, if you don't have a dorm set up, or if you're not housing with friends, it can be difficult to find sources for affordable housing.
Sunny's struggle shows the importance of community in finding affordable housing. They came to Chapel Hill without a dorm and without a community to help them find a place to live. Sunny moved back to Chapel Hill, and their second search for affordable housing proved to be a communal effort. Communities from Facebook housing groups, Instagram stories, and friends they'd made while at UNC helped them find a sublease. Community helped, but timing didn't.
At least for me, I'm looking at housing in terms of the school semesters, and so that has been a big challenge for me when it comes to affordable housing. You just have to do your research months in advance if you want to find a place that's affordable.
The search for affordable housing is emotional. Students like Sunny spend hours looking at listings and networking in online groups and in person. Both are emotionally draining, especially when students are already stressed about classes and the cost of living in Chapel Hill. Were there any emotions you felt while looking for affordable housing? Defeat, misery, joy? How did that process make you feel?
Yeah, I would say I've definitely felt all of those emotions because I think it takes a certain amount of energy to search for housing, just because, again, like I said, the price, the timing, people moving, graduating, all these sorts of things can affect the amount of stress that can come with searching for affordable housing. So currently I'm living in Carborough, and my apartment is $700 a month, which isn't bad for the area, especially as a college student. I feel typically rent can go upwards of $2,000 for college students. So I definitely found a reasonable price. And I was able to find this place through the contact of a friend. It didn't take too long, and it took maybe just a couple months for me to like officially move into this place.
The town of Chapel Hill reports that half of renters spend more than 30% of their income on housing. About how much of your income goes towards rent?
I currently make, I think, $14 an hour plus tips. I work at a restaurant and I work part-time. I am living paycheck to paycheck. I get a paycheck every 2 weeks, and one of those paychecks goes towards rent. So probably like 50 to 60%. As someone who like doesn't have parents like supporting my rent, it is difficult to pay my rent. Like I'm looking for a second job.
How does it feel spending half of your paycheck on rent every month?
Oh my gosh, it's awful. I would say it is a little bit humbling. I think that's the best way to put it. I think it's ultimately worth it for me because, like I said, I'm here for school and I have to like keep that in mind and focus. But hopefully after I graduate, I can get a better salary job or something.
The town of Chapel Hill's Affordable Housing Report shares there's been a 23% increase in rental rates. Sunny, you've moved in and out of Chapel Hill a few times. Was expensive rent part of the reason you left?
Honestly, yes, that has actually been a reason at one time that I moved out. I just realized I couldn't keep affording my rent, and so I decided to move back in with my parents.
Did you notice rents increasing each time you moved back?
Yes, actually it did, because I moved into the same exact apartment and the rent had increased.
Why live in Chapel Hill if it's hard to afford?
For me, a major reason is because of my studies. Since I'm a student here, I think definitely not having a car is a major reason why I also stay in the area, since ultimately the commute for me is a big thing. For me, like my main motivation is to go to school. So if like finding housing in the area, like close to my job, school, community, all of that is important. And that's kind of what has like kept me in Chapel Hill.
Interest rates affect the development of affordable housing renters like Sunny seek. The Fed can change them throughout the year. Higher interest rates make the development of affordable housing more expensive, while lower interest rates make it cheaper. When they're higher, developers could develop less affordable housing. When they're lower, they could develop more housing. The Fed has changed interest rates a lot over the past few years. During the pandemic, they hit a record low when the Fed lowered interest rates to stimulate the economy. Lower interest rates meant it was less expensive for developers and home buyers to finance the cost of borrowing to build or purchase a home. Home prices rose as households moved on the cheap. Other supply constraints affected prices, which rose in response. And then the Fed raised interest rates to cool inflation. Higher interest rates meant it was more expensive for home buyers to finance the cost of borrowing to purchase a home or pay the mortgage on a purchased home. New home buyers found the housing market full of expensive houses with an expensive cost of borrowing. Not everyone can afford to buy into this pricey market. The economy benefits when people can afford to live where they work and suffers when they can't. The North Carolina Housing Finance Agency reports affordable housing creates jobs and improves workforce recruitment, retention, and expansion. A shortage of affordable housing means workers can be priced out of living close to their jobs, renters can't accrue wealth by buying a home, and higher prices and mortgage rates are a disincentive for homeowners to move. This lack of affordability makes people feel stuck. When they feel stuck, they don't move. When people don't move to Chapel Hill or move away from Chapel Hill, they don't participate in its economy as much as they could. Households' ability to afford their housing is based on AMI, or Area Median Income. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development says the Durham-Chapel Hill AMI is $126,200. The town of Chapel Hill's Affordable Housing Report shows rents and home values have risen as household incomes decreased over the last year. Half of renters and around 20% of homeowners spend more than 30% on housing. And around 40% of households now feel burdened by housing. Roberto Quercia, Harris Distinguished Professor at the UNC Department of City and Regional Planning, joins me today to discuss what happens when people can't afford to live where they work. Roberto, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So first, I would love to hear a little bit about your interest in affordable housing. Where did that come from?
I wish in a way that I could tell you it was my plan from the beginning. I worked as an architect in the past, and I also work in a nonprofit housing development area. I realized that much of the problems people were confronting was insufficient income, high cost, meeting the right people just coincidentally to open doors and push me in a certain direction, not really admire the work. And so I ended up working in the area that I do.
I'm interested in discussing some of the macroeconomic factors that impact affordable housing. So let's start by discussing the impact of interest rates on affordable housing. Changes in interest rates can make the cost of borrowing to build or purchase a home more or less expensive. Do changes in interest rates affect the development of affordable housing?
Absolutely. As you probably can guess, affordable housing is much more sensitive to changes in rates than market rate housing. When interest rate increases, it costs more to for developers to build homes. Oftentimes, interest rates go up when inflation goes up, and so there is increasing labor costs. Suppliers charge more for materials, which of course makes housing, the ultimate product, more expensive, less affordable. The fact that affordable housing really works with very thin margins, the interest rate kind of ripple through the system, making things less affordable and less viable.
Interest rates affect the layered system of financing that supports the development of affordable housing. This system is made of equity, government funding, and bank lending. Increased interest rates decrease the amount lenders lend. That means you need more cash upfront to finance affordable housing or impact renovations. Have changes in interest rates affected low-income homebuyers' ability to purchase a home in Orange County?
It's kind of a complicated answer. I mean, the simple answer is it makes it more expensive. You will see with listings, as interest rates go up, there are fewer buyers. And so sellers are more likely to provide concessions. When interest rates go down, that you will say, great, it's more affordable. You have a flood of buyers flooding into the market, and that beats up the price of housing through competition. So it's kind of counterintuitive, and it can go both ways, depending on the market.
And given the recent changes in interest rates, have you noticed any trends regarding low-income home ownership?
Yeah, there's been a decrease in mortgage applications for purchase over the last few weeks, especially. When you increase interest rates, it will have a disproportionate impact in that sector. In addition to the effect on interest rates,
uncertainty affects affordable housing. People are uncertain about the Fed changing rates, market volatility, and government capacity.
All that makes people less willing to take risks, and so they stay put.
Despite the town of Chapel Hill's nearly $8 million affordable housing budget, it reports a shortage of affordable housing for both renters and buyers. Only around 30% of housing in Chapel Hill is affordable to households earning 80% of AMI. What does this mean for low-income home ownership in Orange County?
Obviously, it's bad news. There is no question that there is something wrong if the people that make our community work, firefighters, first responders, teachers, people that work at the hospital, can live where they work. Good things that come from being a university town and a successful ranked university is that it makes housing unaffordable for our essential workers. And a lot of the students that attend Chapel Hill, after the first year, that are required to live on campus, they move out of the dorms. The reality at the moment is that a lot of our essential workers are competing with students for housing. Although students have very low income, they have access often to their parents' help or student loans. The fact that they are income inelastic, meaning that they are more insensitive to increases in rent, make them really difficult to compete with them. One of the fastest growing areas in real estate development is luxury student housing. if you work on a minimum wage or a fixed income, you really cannot afford the higher rent. But again, we have thousands of students out there, and they occupy units that could be used by locals and essential workers. Without the students, rents would be much lower.
The town has implemented initiatives to make housing more affordable. Its inclusionary zoning policy mandates 15% of new units be affordable housing. However, developers can pay in lieu if they don't want to include affordable housing in their project.
But the amount that you pay is really a fraction of what it costs to put an affordable unit in the market. So I would either raise the amount of the payment in lieu or eliminate that option so that developers that build have to provide an affordable unit. Many of those units end up with the Orange County Community Land Trust, so supporting the land trust and the land trust model is a good example of what we can do. One of the biggest challenges in our area is the cost of land. Whatever land is owned by the town could be used for affordable housing. There are opportunities in every land owned by the city to explore that, and the town could ask for proposals from developers. And I would assume they would respond to that with some mixed income where you have some affordable, some not, and then the town could pick, whatever is the most affordable units provided.
There are a few ways the town could further support the development of affordable housing. It could increase sales tax, redevelop empty schools for housing, or build more housing in partnership with the university. However,
the town has only so many resources, and so at some point you need state participation and mostly federal participation.
So looking at the benefits of affordable housing and what happens when people can't afford to live near to where they work, the NC Department of Commerce considers housing a kind of infrastructure that supports the larger labor market and economy. What are the benefits of affordable housing for the local economy?
One, they attract employers. Employers will not go with giving their salaries, employees cannot live. Yeah? The farther they live, there is more absenteeism, more turnover. Second, there is the stress in the workforce. Families that spend too much on housing or on transportation time, have more stress, there is more volatility. I think makes for a less stable workforce for employers. From a town perspective, there have been some research in the past looking at whether low-income families contribute to the community more than they take from the community in services. I think that conversation is long past, and if you can take everything into account, they bring to the community much more than what they take out. Affordable housing is part of the infrastructure like roads and water and sewer that you need to make businesses thrive and an economy thrive at the local level.
What happens to the local economy when people can't afford to live where they work?
Well, in some ways, you are more sensitive to national changes. A lot of our houses, they become first more unaffordable, and two, it becomes more like a place where you don't have the diversity you need to have the rich culture that we want Chapel Hill to be.
Ultimately, why is it important to have affordable housing?
Well, you have to live somewhere, yeah? we all have to live somewhere. And it seemed to me that if you were born in Chapel Hill, you grew up in Chapel Hill, you went through schools in Chapel Hill, there is in a way some implied right that you should be able to live in your town, yeah? And that's not the case. In the hour market, it's a commodity. You have the money, you buy it, and if you don't have the money, you're out of luck. Eventually, if your income is below a certain level, the government can help. Our policy has always been, at least at the federal level, that balance between helping but not helping too much. And I think we need to kind of reframe ourselves mentally that this is such an important part of the infrastructure that makes a community vibrant that we need to invest more in it.
The need for affordable housing is part of a broader squeeze on the housing supply in Chapel Hill. An article from the Richmond Fed shows there's a correlation between the supply of housing and changes in home prices. Month supply is an indicator of the number of housing units for sale. It's inversely related to pricing. When month supply rises, house price growth slows. When month supply falls, house price growth rises. In other words, more housing makes housing cheaper. Interest rates affect how much developers can build and when buyers buy. Both try to time the market when interest rates are lower to reduce borrowing costs to finance their projects or purchases. Like we said earlier, interest rates have risen since their record low during the pandemic. Higher interest rates make borrowing costs more expensive for developers and new homeowners. The construction rate of new homes in North Carolina has fallen since its peak in the early 2000s, according to the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Lower interest rates don't solve Chapel Hill's problem with the construction of affordable housing. In theory, they can also be problematic. Lower interest rates make housing more affordable and incentivize people to move. This increased demand causes competition over homes, increasing home prices. Regardless of the rate, affordable housing can still feel unaffordable to home buyers and renters. The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's Home Ownership Affordability Monitor, aka Home Index, shows low-income home buyers and renters aren't the only ones struggling with rising home and rental prices. The Home Index measures a median-income household's ability to afford a median-priced home. If the index is above 100, they can afford a home. If it's below 100, they can't afford one. The Home Index shows homebuyer affordability has fallen nationwide since January 2019, including in every major metropolis in North Carolina. In the Durham-Chapel Hill area, affordability fell from 95 in January 2019 to 65 in January 2025. In other words, it's much harder to afford a home now than it was then. Towns like Chapel Hill step up when the market can't step in to meet housing needs. We've heard from Professor Roberto Quercia and low-income renter Sunny Duncan about Chapel Hill's shortage of affordable housing. Now, Mayor Jessica Anderson joins us to share the town's affordable housing strategy. Mayor Jess, thanks for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Before we discuss the town's affordable housing plan, I want to know more about your background in affordable housing. What is your experience working with affordable housing?
Certainly, it's been a major priority of the town the entire time that I've been on the council, which is, I guess, coming up on 11 years. So I've definitely gotten to do a deep dive into affordable housing from kind of a policy level on council. Some of actually my previous work roles have also kind of been adjacent to affordable housing. I've worked on youth homelessness. My first job out of college was working with pregnant and parenting teens experiencing homelessness in a residential facility. So I've kind of worked adjacent to affordable housing, and council has really been the place that I've gotten to learn the most about affordable housing creation at the municipal level and kind of how the federal goals kind of filter down and ways that we can make it happen or ways that, some places are keeping it from happening.
Professor Quercia told us higher interest rates reduce the development of affordable housing. How do interest rates affect the town's ability to build affordable housing?
They certainly do. I think generally when prices go up and interest rates go up, that means that often projects just don't pencil out to come out of the ground, especially with some of our incentives and requirements. If projects can't happen, then certainly the affordable component isn't going to happen. And for projects that are happening on town-owned land, it also means even for affordable housing developers that they're still operating under the need for lower interest rates, all of the associated kind of cost of materials, labor, all of these kind of large economic trends have a huge impact on what we see happening or not happening on the ground. So, we have seen that we're getting a lot less applications for development projects, and we're also seeing a lot less happening right now.
While the town has increased its affordable housing, the Affordable Housing Report shares it still had a shortage of 1,900 units in 2025. What are some of the challenges the town faces in developing affordable housing?
It's incredibly expensive. It's so expensive that it's not something that the town can subsidize itself. We are constantly having to balance the idea that we can only raise taxes so much before we have undone all of our affordability goals by making that a huge expense. So we really don't have the revenue sources from other levels of government to fill that gap between market rate housing and deeply affordable housing. So we are going to continue to look for creative ways and partnerships.
The town has partnered with UNC Health to develop more housing. UNC Health wanted to expand its Easttown campus, and the town of Chapel Hill wanted more affordable housing for its workforce. Together, they launched a $20 million affordable housing loan fund in partnership with Self-Help Fund Ventures. The fund offers different financing options for the preservation or development of affordable housing. This makes building easier for developers interested in affordable housing. Unfortunately, partnerships can't solve the town's problem with the policies that affect the development of affordable housing in Chapel Hill. How much influence does the town have on the development of affordable housing?
There's certainly these big picture trends, and of course, it's a national crisis. And so there's lots of things that are outside of our control. That being said, I would argue that we have a huge amount of impact and influence on the creation of affordable housing. We have a 5-year affordable housing strategy. We've looked at, multi-pronged ways of getting housing out of the ground, of preserving affordable housing, preserving naturally occurring affordable housing, or NOAA. And as we've seen in a lot of places in the country, if municipalities don't want housing, they can be really effective at stopping it from happening. They can deny it. They can make it incredibly difficult to do. Folks who are creating housing will give up and go elsewhere if you make it hard enough and if you say no enough times.
The Town of Chapel Hill's annual Affordable Housing Report for fiscal year 2025 tells us about the funding and progress of affordable housing. The town has launched a $20 million affordable housing fund, gave $2.8 million to community partner projects and programs, and allocated over $26 million to address local affordable housing needs. Can you tell us more about how the town is increasing affordable housing in the long run?
Yeah, absolutely. We have that revolving loan fund that we created with the help of UNC Health when they were building their Easttown medical complex. We are leveraging town-owned land. It was really exciting to go to the groundbreaking for the Homestead Road project. That's on town-owned property, and the town is also, putting actual dollars into projects like that. We also are, we have an expedited review process for projects that have over a certain percentage of affordable housing in them. And we tend to see that really that's being used by developers who are doing primarily or entirely affordable housing, that folks who would otherwise be doing a market rate project aren't using that as much. So I think between partnering, working with our partners, funding our partners, using town-owned property, and fixing the development review process, we're seeing results.
Most of the construction of new affordable housing finishes by 2030. This helps low-income residents in the future, but not necessarily in the present. How is the town supporting affordable housing in the short run?
Well, I would say that, number one, the projects that we approved a while ago are now coming out of the ground, too. We also have work that we do around preserving naturally occurring and existing affordable housing units and projects. And so I think in a combination of ways, we're continually trying to keep the pipeline going so that there's more and more, but there also has to be and is a lot of work about maintaining what we have and making sure that we're not losing a ton of it as we're bringing new units online as well. It's really easy to forget that, Chapel Hill is not a place that we think of that would have a lot of gentrification, given that it kind of has always been a pretty expensive place to live. But maintaining and keeping places from becoming even more unaffordable has to be part of our strategy, too, as we continue to add to the stock.
In the long run, the town is focused on building new housing. According to the Affordable Housing Report, the town has built 62 affordable homes and preserved 161 housing units. Future construction includes the approval of around 300 housing units with an estimated 1,300 completed over the next 5 years. In the short run, the town is working to improve accessibility to the housing it already has. 143 homeowners were assisted through the Property Tax Assistance Program, and 4 employees were placed in housing through the Employee Housing Program. We also spoke with Sunny Duncan, a UNC student who has struggled to find affordable housing in Chapel Hill. Sunny is low income and competes with essential workers for housing. Is the town creating more affordable housing for students?
All of our housing is for anybody who is eligible for it. So the town actually has no role, has no oversight, has no ability to limit who lives in units. That being said, I think that our partnership and our work that we've been doing for quite a while with the university is part of addressing some of those needs more directly. I think the university can create housing just for employees, just for students, because that's the only way that we're really going to see kind of the large-scale solutions that we need to address a really tough problem.
How does the town balance the development of affordable housing for students, essential workers, and other low-income residents?
To some degree, we don't have a ton of levers to pull on exactly who lives somewhere. So it's not that we don't think about what those groups need and how those needs differ. However, I think, as we really focus on certain typologies of housing, there are middle income price points, but there's also middle housing typologies, which are by definition going to be a bit smaller. They're going to be denser, and those become more affordable. Knowing that denser, smaller units is going to be, I think, the way that we are hitting the needs of a lot of different groups. Given the cost of land in Chapel Hill, larger units or single-family homes just really aren't a viable way to create any sort of affordability. If we want to be a place that's welcoming and diverse and inclusive, I think that should include our housing and how it sits together as well.
Diversity of choice is important to affordable housing. Residents should have the option to rent or buy, live in preserved units or new construction, and have housing subsidized when they can't afford to rent or buy in Chapel Hill. The Affordable Housing Report shows how diversity of choice affects subsidized housing. Although subsidized housing comprises only 5% of housing in Chapel Hill, it has a diversity of ownership. Of the almost 1,200 units, 45% are owned, 30% are public housing, and 25% are rentals. Does the town need federal help to develop affordable housing?
Absolutely. We continue to do it because it's a priority and because we're going to do whatever we can. Truly, it would have to be something that was a federal and state priority that was going to be subsidized. For us to really develop as much as we want and as much as we need, it's at a scale where the federal government has the ability to resource big projects and big initiatives. Our congresswoman and our previous congressman did a great job and do a great job of bringing in kind of as many earmarks and as many federal sources that they can. Huge projects come out of the federal government because localities just can't pay for those things on their own. Affordable housing is a national crisis, and I truly think it deserves a national response that is commensurate with the issue at hand.
Finally, why do you believe it's important to support affordable housing for low-income communities?
It's really important because it's part of our values in town and who we say we are and we want to be, but also it's actually just practical. If we want people to be able to work here and live here, then we need to create housing that people who are working can live in. So a lot of people who work in this town cannot afford to live here. And when people can't live here, we see all these reverberations throughout the community that impact everybody. If people can't live here, they might take a job that's closer to where they can live, which means we have employment issues, which we see all the time. Those are people that we care about, but that we also need. So our communities are stronger when those people live with us and that we are all in community together. I think there's a social value, but there's also really practical reasons why communities need mixed incomes and they need different types of people living in their community so that all those important jobs can get done.
We've spoken to a lot of people about a lot of different aspects of affordable housing. Let's take a moment to revisit some of the places our conversations took us to. Mayor Jess told us how the town is pouring millions into affordable housing. Its $20 million Affordable Housing Loan Fund, construction of housing, and short-run programs help reduce the shortage of affordable housing. Professor Roberto Quercia shared the town has limited resources to support affordable housing diversity. Larger macroeconomic issues like interest rates affect the construction of affordable housing. Higher interest rates increase the cost of borrowing, making it more expensive to build or purchase a home. Lower interest rates reduce the cost of borrowing, but can cause a spike in demand that ultimately increases competition and raises home prices. Regardless of whether interest rates are high or low, low-income individuals have the right to live in the town they work or study in. While some students' parents help them with their rent, others can't afford to. Sunny Duncan pays their own rent, is low income, and the expensive cost of rent in Chapel Hill has pushed them in and out of the town. They paid even more for the same apartment the second time they rented it, showing the cost of rent is increasing here. Affordable housing is a national crisis we looked at through a local lens. It's larger than Chapel Hill or interest rates. It's also about a lack of federal help, zoning laws, the will of municipalities to work on the issue, and a variety of other factors. We didn't talk as much about those, but did talk about people and how interest rates affect their ability to find affordable housing. Remember, people are the economy. People's emotions are part of their lived economic experience. Sunny felt miserable when they struggled to find a place to live. If our community can give people a place to work and study, it should give people an affordable place to live, and the joy that comes along with finding one. Economics with Aria is a production of the Chapel Hill Media Group. Special thank you to my editor, Brighton McConnell, my economics editor, Gerald Cohen, and our theme music composer, Alan Hunt. Follow me at Aria_the_reporter on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube to stay updated about all things economics. Listen to our show on air or wherever you find your podcasts. See you all next month for another episode of Economics with Aria.